And we are back with another episode of From the Rafters. Sam and I are here on Friday, April 8th, the night after the Celtics lost to the Milwaukee Bucks, and two nights after, what a start from me. 2 nights after the Celtics clobbered the Chicago Bulls. And we can just get right into the playoff seedings because I feel like that's the most relevant. We can talk about the Bucks game and the Bulls game, etc. But both of those games are pretty important when it comes to playoff seeding. I can break it down really quick from what I saw on Twitter. And then we can talk about matchups, etc. Celtics, if they win against Memphis on Sunday, you guys will be hearing this on Saturday. Celtics win on Sunday against Memphis. They are the 3 seed, and that would probably end up with a matchup against Chicago. And again, we can talk about it, but I think that'd be pretty good. If the Celtics win on Sunday, and the Bucks lose out, I believe the Celtics get the 2 seed. If the Celtics win and Philly, if the Celtics win, they get 3. If the Celtics lose and Philly wins both of their games, Celtics get the 4 seed. But if Philly loses either of the games, Celtics also get the 3 seed. So they could technically finish anywhere from 2 to 4, but most likely the Celtics will be the 3 seed if they win, or if Philly loses one of their games. There's a chance they can get up to 2. There's a chance they fall to 4, but 3's looking pretty good right now, if you ask me.
Yes. Excellent. Yesterday, watching the game was a roller coaster. Going in, I wasn't really sure how I felt, and I wasn't educated enough. When I started watching the game, started looking at the standings, and looking at Twitter, I realized I was like, all right, well, if the Celtics win tonight, they're locked into 2 if Philly loses. If Philly wins, the Celtics also need to win because they would then fall behind Philly into 4. Which I don't want them to have either because I don't want to deal with any more of this vaccination crap. I don't even want to talk about it really today because I've had enough of it.
Go Google
yeah,
it.
yeah. So ideally, which is exactly what happened, Daniel Tice understood the assignment there with 30 seconds left or however many and missed the layup, which is fine. They're in 3rd place after losing. They, like you said, Jack, need 1 Philly loss or a win Sunday. They got to be careful. They do have to be careful, right? You can't have Milwaukee fall, and unless Brooklyn falls, they could lose to Cleveland today.
Yeah, well, if Milwaukee loses one of their last 2 games and the Celtics beat Memphis, the Celtics would get the 2 seed. So that is also a possibility. It's not just if Milwaukee wins out. So at that point, it will get a little dicey. You could get Brooklyn, but I've seen a lot of fans on Twitter say they're scared of Brooklyn. I know we've talked about how we don't want to face them, but most of the media and, from what we're seeing from teams, no one's scared of Brooklyn this year. And you want to know why, Sam? You said it a ton
They
of
don't play
times.
defense.
Their defense is terrible. It's absolutely horrendous. They don't play any defense. Kevin Durant's going to put up however many, 50. Kyrie's going to put up his 30. And then the rest of their team's going to put up a combined 20, and then they're going to give up 120 points. Like, that's not a winning formula, especially in the playoffs. Yes, they managed to take the Bucks to 7 games last year, but at the same time, the Nets team is playing a little bit differently this year, and you never know. Maybe they can turn up the defense. But also, the rest of the East got better this year, and the Nets, if anything, got worse, right? Realistically speaking. So
They most certainly got worse. They don't have James
yeah.
Harden on their team anymore. They're worse.
So at the end of the day, like, it's a matter of, would you rather have home court advantage over Milwaukee in round 2, but you have to go through Brooklyn, or would you rather have not home court against Milwaukee in round 2 and then go against Chicago in the first round? Because I think that's a valid debate, and most people would say Chicago because it's the easier series, but I don't think it's that crazy to want Brooklyn and home court against the Bucks. What about you?
After this week, upon further review, I'd like to play Chicago because Chicago's really bad.
Yeah.
Zach LaVine's bad. This is confirmed science now. My hypothesis over the last couple of seasons has been proven correct. He's no good. But also,
Who's this? Who's not good?
Zach LaVine. He's not.
Oh, come on.
He was horrible the other day.
Yeah, he had a bad game.
He was really bad. But also, like, you just watch the Celtics play Milwaukee in Milwaukee, play them very well. They really could have won that game should they have been healthy. I mean, yeah, they shot a bunch of threes. Jalen had a triple-double. These are kind of abnormal things happening for them. But at the same time, they played really well. It
was a great game.
The defense was not there, unfortunately. They still gave up 127 points, which is not the normal. It's not what we're used to as fans, but they adjusted. A lot of good games all around, like lots to be proud of. And it's very encouraging. That's a game that you really felt like Milwaukee could have blown it open. It really never happened. They battled. It did happen at one point, but they battled back. Marcus Smart was excellent, season high in points. So they
Mhm.
can hang with Milwaukee is really what I'm getting at. And obviously they can steamroll Chicago. Who knows? And keep an eye out. Watch for Brooklyn against Cleveland tonight. We'll see if Cleveland's any good. Because if they beat the Nets tonight, there's potential for an Atlanta victory. Miami is now actually, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if they're locked into that 1 seed. I could be wrong. But they're playing Atlanta.
Miami is locked into the 1 seed, yes.
Okay. So they could be resting guys. Atlanta could catch a break, win the game. If Brooklyn loses, I don't know. I'd
More
imagine,
incentive for the Celtics to
yeah.
get 2. More incentive for the
Well,
Celtics to get 2.
that's what I mean. In fairness, the Celtics will be in control of that. Kind of. They could
They
very
can
well be control of getting the number 2 seed. They
yes.
control 3.
The Celtics control whether or not they get the 3 seed because if they win, they get 3, but they would need a little bit of help by ways of a Milwaukee loss and in order to get that 2 seed. Let me check the Bucks schedule for you to
They
see who
play
they play in their
Detroit
last 2
tonight,
games.
and who do they play Sunday?
I think
They
it's
don't play the
Cleveland.
Pacers.
I think it might be
Yes, it is
Cleveland.
Cleveland.
Yeah,
It's
they play
Cleveland.
Cleveland. So
Cleveland, who
not
will likely be trying to win.
and not the most difficult of games, but at the same time, we know that the Pistons are not going to just fall over, right? The Pistons aren't going to just keel over and let the Bucks win the game.
Let's hope
Clearly,
they practice equality on the floor.
for
They're
sure,
paying the ass to the Celtics. Did they beat Philadelphia?
they did. They beat
Yeah.
Philly. Shout out, and they
Milwaukee
are.
might be resting people tonight. You want to pay attention to that because they're on a back-to-back. Celtics sat Tatum and Horford on a back-to-back. There's plenty of incentive to rest guys. You don't really want to have Giannis go down there right before the playoffs or Middleton or any of those guys. You don't want to see anybody get hurt. If you're anybody, I mean, you don't want to see them get hurt, but
Yeah,
especially if you're the Bucks.
yeah, and I think I saw this on Twitter. I might have the date wrong, but the Pistons are 11-12 since the All-Star break, which I know doesn't sound like much for the
Good for
Detroit
them.
Pistons. That's some pretty good basketball, and they play hard every night. Cade Cunningham, I believe, played in their last game, so he should be active in theory. They've got a lot of young, hungry guys. I think the Pistons are going to be next year's Cavaliers,
Mm.
which sounds a little crazy, but when you think about it and put it into perspective, that just means I think they could be a play-in team, which is I don't think out of the realm of possibility at all. So I'm pretty high on them and the Pacers, but and then like you said, Cleveland's going to be fighting till the bitter end, so they could end up taking a game against Milwaukee too. And Philly is, if I'm not mistaken, kind of a mess right now. I mean, they just lost to Toronto, like you said, they
They
lost to
blew
the
a big
Pistons a little while
lead
ago.
to Toronto. They got up early.
Yeah,
Does it really count as a blown lead if you're up early, though? I feel like at that point you kind
yeah,
of expect the game to even out before the end of it.
yeah. I guess it doesn't count. It doesn't count the same as you're up if you're up in like the second
It's
half or
it's
something.
no November 3rd against Chicago or the 5th, whatever day it
Yeah,
was.
November, whatever against Chicago. By the way, the only game the Bulls have won against the top
Yes.
seed in the Eastern Conference, which
I was trying to
is
explain that to
oof.
the guys on the pregame yesterday. Like there was arguments going on in the chat about Jimmy J specifically. If you're listening, shout out you because you were
Shout out
on
Jimmy.
a roll yesterday in the chat. He was not afraid of Brooklyn. He was, but not because he doesn't think Brooklyn. I mean, he doesn't think they're good, but he thinks Chicago's just as good. He was like, DeRozan and Levine can do everything that KD and Kyrie can do. Like he was going
Wow.
crazy, and I was trying to like I don't remember which either Tim or KJ was saying like, well, like Chicago, like they started hot, and I was like, well, they really never were good because they've really never beaten anybody at the top except the one time.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what the exact record is anymore, but
It's 1-15 against the top 4
top 4 teams in the NBA.
in the conference.
Oh wow, that's
KJ went and did it for the whole league, and it was not much better.
woof, woof. Yeah, Chicago not very good. I can't imagine they'll make it past the first round, whoever they face.
Certainly
Um,
not.
but yeah, like I said, you said you'd favor Chicago and then not having home court against Milwaukee versus having to play Brooklyn in round one.
Yeah, because I feel like if you play Chicago in round 1, you really are gonna get some
Blow them
time
out.
to recover.
Okay.
Yeah, you're probably gonna sweep them or win in 5. you got to think Al Horford's going to get a little extra time to sit around. If this knee thing they're having Tatum listed for every game is actually like bothering him, like he's not going to have to be on that as much. There's a lot going into it, and I'm on the train that if you're really going to bust your ass in round one, you're going to get fatigued, whether it's in round two or round three. And also, this is probably number one. The reason why I'm like, of just avoid Brooklyn for now, because you want to make sure you're still playing when Rob's ready to go.
This is true. Yes.
You
I
know,
can see that as well.
I wholeheartedly think they're better than Brooklyn if they have Rob playing.
Well,
And
did you
I
see
think they played all right yesterday too.
Did you see the reports that Celtics technically aren't ruling him out for round one either?
Yes, Ime Udoka. In Ime, I've said this before. He's not one to beat around the bush. If he thinks it's true, he says it. You know,
Mhm.
he's not out there, as the kids say, capping, right? He's not capping. He knows he's not going to say something that's going to get people going for it not to be true.
And
That's something we've learned.
Brad said today that Rob is progressing nicely and he's
Yes.
walking around like
Yep.
nothing even happened, which is huge. I mean, it doesn't even matter who you play in the first round. Getting Rob back as soon as possible would be amazing for the Celtics team. And I know they've lost a couple games since he went down. I think actually 3 games since he went down, but I didn't feel
Two of
bad
them don't
about
really count.
I was gonna say, I don't feel bad about any of those losses, right? You look at the Raptors game, no one was playing, and they still took them to overtime. The Heat game, I guess you could say was the only real blunder. Like you could have won
That's a
that game,
bad
you should
one.
have won that game, but it is what it is. It's a tough team, and you kept it close. I mean, the 8-point differentials because of free throws, and then the Milwaukee game, you had Tice pop off, you had Smart pop off, you're missing Tatum, Horford, and Rob, 3 starters, and you still kept it close and had a bunch of guys
Could have
contributing late in the
won.
game.
Absolutely
You
could
could
have
have
won
won all
that
3 of
game.
those games. You could have won all 3 of those games, and I
Yes.
think that's the important takeaway, and I see a lot of people complaining, "Oh, Celtics should have won," and no, I mean, that's something you usually do is the Celtics were in the game, they should have won that game, but even if that's true, you still gotta take some sort of, not pride, but still some sort of like, "Okay, this team is legit, especially if they can get healthy, they can compete with anybody," and I saw some people on Twitter saying like, "Oh, maybe it's best," like, even like if you disregard the vaccination thing with Toronto, people say, "Oh, maybe you drop to 4, you take Toronto, and then you want Miami in round 1." I'd rather play Milwaukee than Miami. Am I crazy? Yes, but I can't change that feeling. Like I'd rather play Milwaukee in round 2 than Miami.
2 weeks ago,
100%.
I would have told you you're crazy, but then I watched them play Miami at the Garden, and the way that Miami slapped on that zone at the end of the game was, like, kinda concerning. You kinda forget that they'll do that, and that's one of the things that helped them beat the Celtics a couple years ago in the conference finals. So, I don't think I think out of the top 4 teams, Miami's the least talented, but that doesn't mean they're the worst. It just
I will
means
say this. I
go
will say
ahead.
this, and this is gonna be my Boston radio show. Everyone clip it, put it on Twitter, make fun of him take. But I believe it. I agree with you that the Miami Heat are probably the least star-powered team out of that top 4. But if there is a team in the Eastern Conference that has a chance to beat the best chance to beat the Celtics, I think it is the Heat.
I agree.
I think the Celtics win a series against Milwaukee. I think the Celtics win a series against Philadelphia. I think the Celtics win a series against Toronto, Brooklyn, Chicago, Cleveland, any team. I favor the Celtics, and I think I'd still probably favor the Celtics against Miami, but I think that would be the closest series out of the bunch.
I think Milwaukee is a team they can absolutely beat. I don't know how many times I got to say it. They've played excellent basketball against Milwaukee over the last 2 seasons now. Philadelphia. I don't know about Philadelphia. We haven't seen the Celtics play Philadelphia since the trade. Now, you
Philadelphia
watch
does
more
not scare me.
basketball than I do, that isn't the Celtics. So I trust you. But I don't know. I just think, I mean, I'd rather play Philly probably than Miami just because historically you've dominated the 76ers in the playoffs. And Embiid does not play well. Well, that's not true. The Celtics play well against Embiid teams. Embiid led Sixers teams. They play well against them. So that's one thing you could look forward to. But Miami's a pain in the ass, man. I said it to you guys, like this team is just so unlikable. I don't want to watch them for 7 games. I hope
Yes,
somebody beats them. I hope somebody takes them out. How fire would it be? You get to the conference finals and Philly's there.
I
Imagine that.
agree. No, yeah, I mean that'd be that'd be amazing. I'd love it. As long as the Celtics can avoid So how would that work? Yeah, it would be Philly beating Miami
So
in a 7-game series, right?
yeah, so it would be Miami 1, which is locked. Boston 2 or 3, Milwaukee 2 or 3, so they would play each other. Philly would be 4. I mean, hell, Philly could lose to Toronto in the first round. You never know. Toronto's hot.
Phi Philly could fall to 5.
They're
Philly
not
can
going to
still
fall to
fall to 5.
5. They're not going to fall to
Uh,
5, Jack. They're playing who they have. Pacers in one of the games, I think, and somebody
Pacers
else that's
Pistons. It's
yeah,
it's
they're not
Pacers
going to fall
Pistons.
to 5, Jack. They have to lose
Hey,
both games.
I'm just saying I'm praying on the downfall. That's I don't think they
Both the
will,
teams they're
but
playing, by the way, will be. Oh wait, the Pistons are on Sunday, so no, that's what I'm about to say was not true. I was going to say
what were
they're
you gonna
both on a
say?
back to back, but they are not.
Okay. Hey, all I'm saying, this Philly since getting Harden has gone 14-8, which is fine. That's good. But if we're talking, if I had told you Joel Embiid and James Harden are going to play 22 games together, you probably would have said, "Oh, you probably would have given me a better record than 14-8,
You'd
right?" Like
expect them to roll through everyone the way the Celtics rolled through teams for 3 months.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And over that time, they're like 13th in points per game. They're like what's their defense over that time? They have the ninth best defense. That's
which is not
fine. They
bad.
have the 11th best offense. They're fine, but they're not great. Like they're not elite. They've lost to Toronto. They lost 3 in a row to Phoenix, Milwaukee, Detroit, and sure those are two of them are good teams, but like
Two of them are teams you have to beat to win a championship. So there you go.
I don't believe in Philly. I just don't. I think you've seen that Harden can do well in a couple rounds of the playoffs, and I'm not going to sit here and talk to you like an ESPN talk show host. Harden hasn't done it in the playoffs. He's not going to do it this time. That's
Well, he
stupid, right?
hasn't.
I know. But my point is, Harden's good at basketball. He's good at basketball in the playoffs. He ran into the Warriors for 5 years, whatever. I just don't think that they scare me more than any other team the Celtics could potentially face. Because I think the biggest difference there is the Celtics don't have anybody that can guard Kevin Durant. You can slow down Kevin Durant, sure, but he's proven that he can still drop 50 on your
Well,
head while you play
Kevin
good
Durant's
defense
probably the
against him
best player in the
in
league.
the world. In the
Yeah.
world. Giannis, I mean, showed you in that Milwaukee game. Sure, you didn't have Horford, yes, but Giannis, as much as the Celtics defend the Bucks well, Giannis still pops off and he can still win you a playoff game. I don't trust Embiid to win a playoff game with Al Horford guarding him for 7 games. I
Yeah,
just
I
don't.
kind of feel that.
You know what I'm saying? Like he'll have a couple good games, but I don't think the series would go past 6. I think the Celtics would win in 6 or 5. And
Jack
that's a hot take,
completely
but
out on the Sixers. I don't know.
I don't believe in
I
Philly.
can't give you an opinion just because I
And
haven't seen it.
I'll tell you this. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Philly loses Toronto in round 1. Because every year there is one playoff series that comes out and like, whoa, how's that happening? And if they don't lose, it's going that there's no way they take care of Toronto in any less than 6 games. Toronto's going to take 2 or 3 games or hell, 4 games in that series.
Well,
They don't I yeah.
they'll also be
I'm not
without
in on
Tybal,
Philly.
who's probably their best perimeter defender.
Best defender. Yeah.
Yeah, if in away games, which are probably going to be difficult for them to win anyways. I don't know what the
And
capacity is up in Toronto, but
they're getting
their
there.
fans are usually pretty loud. And it's a younger team. Like Scotty Barnes is one of their better players. Siakam, Fred Van Vliet are all good players. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't think they're beating the Celtics. Don't get me wrong. They barely got by the fellas there. All the boys off the street from the North End, bunch of white dudes they brought up to Toronto last time. But yeah, they've been playing very well lately. So not ideal to play them in round 1. A red hot team.
And I will say this, like, since the beginning of March, let's look and see how Toronto has been. Since the beginning of March, Toronto, excuse me, Toronto has gone 14-6, and their defense has been a top 3 defense. And I know you don't like him, but Nick Nurse is a phenomenal basketball coach.
I
He's
don't
great.
say he's not a good coach. I just think he's a prick.
Of course he's
Even though
to
we've
play
been
against.
told differently, they say he's very nice. Those that have met him, but I don't like
He
sitting
probably is a
watching
nice
him sit there
guy.
with his mouth open. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
he's a nice guy. But if there's a team outside of the Celtics, because I think the Celtics have the best chance with Horford, that can guard Embiid, like maybe I'm crazy again, but every other top team in the East, including the Raptors, has a great wall to throw against Embiid.
Yeah,
right? Like you look
Like,
at the
think of
Bucks.
it like this, Jack.
Yeah,
Put the Bucks right where you're saying there's not a
yeah.
chance for Philly. They don't have a prayer. They don't match
No,
up well.
no.
Miami, they don't match up well.
Who did
Bam
Philly go
is
in the
a
playoffs
top
last year?
candidate for defensive player of the year, and if he didn't get hurt, he might really have more of a shout.
Who
Who
did
beat Philly?
Who did the Sixers play in the playoffs last year?
They beat Washington, and then they lost to Atlanta.
Like, what do we? I don't know. Like, who did Philly beat the year before that?
No one. The Celtics bounced them.
Okay, what about the year before that? Because the Philly
They
made it to the conference.
beat
Did they make it to the conference finals one year?
no, they've never made it to the conference finals. In 2019, which was the year before, they got swept by the Celtics. They lost to Toronto, and I want to say they played Washington again. I think it was Washington
Lost in
in
the
the
Eastern
first round.
Conference semis that year. Where can I see like they beat the Nets? They beat the Nets in round one. The D'Angelo Russell
Oh,
Nets.
that's right. Yes, and they had those posters up for Simmons saying, "Where is he?" Ironically enough, now Simmons plays on. Well, he watches that team play from the bench,
And the
but
year
he's
before that, they beat the Goran Dragic Miami Heat.
yes.
Joel Embiid is a phenomenal player. He has never once beat a team in the playoffs that has a player that can match up against him well. Not once. Like, and I know, oh, he's growing, he's evolving, and Tatum said it perfectly on the Draymond Green show. No one's gonna ever say you can be the best player on a championship team until you do it. That's true. It just is what it is. That's how it goes. And I personally think Joel Embiid probably could be the best, player on a championship team, but he hasn't shown us that, right? Like he's
Well, he
never
hasn't shown
had
us anything close.
exactly. He's
He's an
never
MVP
had,
candidate, and he could
of
win it,
course.
but who's he beat? Who's he beat in the playoffs? You're absolutely right. Who's he lost to in the playoffs? They lost to Atlanta last year. They lost to the Celtics in the bubble, which I mean that's no slouch of a team. That team was red hot. Then in 2019 they lose to the champion Raptors. They lose to the hospital Celtics in 2018. I mean, it's not like they're playing. The only time they really met like a massive force was the Toronto championship team with Kawhi. And you could say the bubble Celtics, but I
And
mean
look who they had to guard Embiid. They had
Gasol
obviously he was on the back end of his career. Marcus Gasol played great
and
defense. He
Ibaka
had
was
Siakam
there.
helping. And you look at this season. I'm just gonna run through this real quick. Toronto has Pascal Siakam, who's probably going to guard Embiid on defense, but they also have help defenders in OG Anunoby, Scotty Barnes, and Precious Achua off the bench. And none of those guys are good enough to guard him one-on-one. But when you talk about a collective effort to stop one player, you have that. And then you have Gary Trent Jr. and Fred VanVleet pestering James Harden, forcing, obviously got Maxey too, but forcing Tobias Harris to take the shots. We saw how that works in a playoff series. Done. The Bucks, you have Brooke Lopez down low and arguably the best defender in the league.
Brooke Lopez, by the way, he's going to be the most awkward motioned player in the league. Like when he plays offensively, he's literally moving in slow motion. Like watching
He's
that
good
game
though.
in Milwaukee, no, he's fine. But watching the game in Milwaukee yesterday, like, geez, that dude looks like he's moving in slow motion. Like
Yeah.
it's like he over exaggerates every move he's doing.
Mhm.
But continue.
I'm gonna keep going. Um, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Brooke Lopez. You can't tell me Embiid's going to be able to pop off against those players, and maybe he has in the regular season. But like everyone always says, the playoffs is a different beast. Boston Celtics. Al Horford has shut him down more than any other player in the NBA, and even if that's not perfect, Embiid said that himself on a
He
podcast.
mentioned that. That was the one name, and I listened to this because I like Embiid and I think he's hilarious. I listened to the Old Man in the Three when he was on there, and
Mhm.
that was the one person he like mentioned that could guard him, even though he downplayed it. But literally, it was like 2 minutes before that of him saying no one can guard him, no one can guard him, and that was the one name that he
Mhm.
mentioned.
So that's there. And then Miami Heat, like you said, Bam Adebayo with great help defenders. Even hell, say the Nets win a series and go up against Philly. Like that's the one team I think Philadelphia could beat is the
Yeah,
Nets
and even
because
then, they're not really in position to play Philly unless they drop to 8 and play
yeah,
Miami and beat Miami.
exactly. And even I was gonna never mind. I was gonna say something that I was gonna take it too far. I was gonna say they could just chuck Drummond at him, but I don't think that would
No, 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 no,
work
no.
out too
Calm
well.
down.
But my point is,
Drummond, by the way, who said Smart should be defensive player of the year.
shout out Andre. But my point is, Milwaukee, Miami, Boston should all be favored over Philly. and Toronto should not be counted out. I don't think I'm not a believer in Philly, and you could if any Philly fan hears this, you're gonna say, "Oh, he's a Boston fan, he's biased." Show me where Embiid has succeeded in the playoffs against a team that can guard him. Show me. Show me the proof. Because until you show me the receipts, you got no basis. And this isn't to say I love Embiid. Embiid's phenomenal. Embiid's an
Yeah, I like
amazing
him
player.
too.
He's super funny. He's a great guy. He's probably one of the most dominant players in the NBA. And this is the most boomer argument you could possibly make from a 23-year-old that hasn't done in the playoffs. Just hasn't done it in the playoffs. He's done it and not only has he not done it in the playoffs, he's done it to a lesser extent in the playoffs than every other Eastern Conference team. The Nets, Kevin Durant has won a championship. The Celtics have been to multiple Eastern Conference finals. The Toronto Raptors with Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam, by the way, won an NBA championship. They weren't the top guys, but they were on that team. The Milwaukee Bucks won a championship last year. The Sixers have not made it past the second round with Embiid.
Yeah.
Sure, Harden's been to the conference finals, but their top player hasn't done shit. This just turned into me hating on
This is
Philly,
a
and
step
like I
up
said,
from my usual, "Hey, this guy hasn't even made the playoffs."
I'm just saying, this is all wrapping back around to Philly does not scare me. As the Celtics should not be afraid of Philly in the slightest. And sure, you beat up on Philly with Enes Kanter playing on the Celtics with Enes Kanter playing 40 minutes. Congratulations. Here's your gold medal. You beat up on them once when they got caught with their pants down and they just had Dennis Schroeder running with Marcus Smart. Congratulations. And obviously you could say the same thing. Oh, the Celtics beat them by 40 without James Harden. That is a completely valid argument. You are correct. But when we're talking about Philadelphia's best player struggles against the Celtics, Bam Adebayo on the Heat, Giannis and Brook Lopez on the Bucks, wall of defenders in Toronto. Good luck in the playoffs. And
Jack has been crapping on Philly for 10 minutes now, which is fine.
if and when Philly makes it to the conference finals, clip this, send it at me, roast me all you want. Until that happens, bring me the receipts. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's anyways, we can back around to the Celtics because this started with me just saying I'm not scared of Philly, and we can do a little list. I'm most scared of, and I think the Celtics can beat anybody in the East, so maybe that's why I'm biased because I'm so confident with how they've been playing. I think the best team in the East is the Bucks. I think the best team to go against the Celtics is the Heat. That's where I'm at. What about you?
Now, do you
I've
think the
dominated the
Celtics
conversation.
where do you think the Celtics are in terms of the best teams? Like where so rank the top. You can do 5, I guess, if you want to include Toronto, but you could rank the top 4 or 5.
I think if I had to think about it from an outside perspective, which again, I'm biased, so I've got to try to do that. I think the Bucks are the best team in the East, and I
Mm,
think the Celtics are right after them.
okay. Yeah, I think that's fair. And then Miami and Philly.
Then
Yes.
Miami, and then Philly, and then
Raps.
Brooklyn, then
Then
Toronto.
Brooklyn, I forgot about. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think Brooklyn's
See,
right.
I think I'd
But
probably
yeah,
that's tough. Yeah,
the
I
Celtics
think you
could be
have it
number
right.
one. They could be number one, but I
Yeah,
just
but they're
think you
not
got to
healthy
respect the
yet, so
chance.
you got to wait to see what's going on there when
Mhm.
Williams comes back and things like that. I think that's very fair. And again, people forget, including me, that Milwaukee won last year, and
Yeah,
they've won a
exactly.
championship together. So that's worth something too. When you go in the playoffs, you have a little bit more experience. You've gotten through the Eastern Conference now. You've been to the finals. You've come back from 2-0 down in the finals. You know how to respond in situations. So Milwaukee's no joke. I do, however, think they are a good matchup for the Celtics.
That's the thing. It all comes down to matchups. Like I ranked what Miami as the third best team in the East. I
Yeah,
think
but you
the
think they're
Celtics. I think they could give the Celtics the best shot. I ranked Bucks as number one. I think the Celtics match up with them well. I ranked Philly 4. I think Toronto could potentially beat them in a playoff series. I've ranted about the Sixers for the past 10 minutes so much you'd think that I hate them. I love Joel Embiid. He's awesome. He's great. He hasn't, done well against pressure in the playoffs, especially when, and I won't stress this enough, in the playoffs, coaches adjust to focus on the stars, right? You can stress team basketball all you want, but at the end of the game, at the end of everything, when the conversation's done, it is Giannis, it is Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, it is Jason Tatum, it is Joel Embiid, it is Kevin Durant. Those are the guys you're worrying about, and James Harden's up there too. but Embiid's the star in Philly. Embiid's the star in Philly, and he like they can guard him well. They guard like you can throw as many guys as you want. We're sorry, we're done. We're done. No more Philly.
This
No
is
more Philly. My
excellent,
bad.
though. That's a very good segment.
It's a change of pace for me, huh?
Yeah, Jack, usually you're not, like, ripping anybody. Usually I'm the one saying, "This guy sucks,
I'm
that
not
guy
even
sucks."
trying to rip Philly. Like I know I'm phrasing it because he hasn't done it before, but I'm just telling you what has happened. He hasn't been able to win a playoff series when the other team has a player that can match up well with him. He crumbled
Yeah.
against the Celtics, and of course they were missing Simmons and Harris was terrible. Fine, there's throw an excuse out there. They waltzed by the Nets and the Heat in the first round because they got easy matchups. They crumbled against Marcus and the Raptors. You lost against. I'm like just going through their playoff history. They have never had to face. Hell, they lost against Clint Capella last year.
No, they were horrible last year. Out of all, like, their playoff, like, fumbling the bag, like, last year was the
It
most
was the
embarrassing.
worst. Yep.
You lost to
And
Atlanta, who had, like, I don't wanna call it a fluky season, but, like, compared to what they were before that season and now where they are again this season, I mean, that's the team that took you out, the 10th seed in the East this year, and,
and
I mean,
I can hear Philly fans saying, "Oh, the Sixers won more playoff games than the Celtics last year." You played the Wizards in the first round. Stop it. Stop it. Cut it.
congratulations.
Congratulations. It's just, and yeah, it's the Celtics' fault for having a down year. I'm not saying the Celtics were good last year. They were bad.
Jaylen
They were
Brown was also
objectively
out.
not great. They were
Not that they would have
objectively,
beat Brooklyn, but
yes, they were objectively a average team last year. They were
they were a
500. They were not
disaster.
good. This year, the Celtics are better than the 76ers.
Yes. They've
Shut up.
lost less games this season than they did last year, and last year was a shortened season. So,
Yeah.
there you go.
I don't know. What I completely lost track in my Philly tirade.
Okay.
What,
Well,
what are we even
let
talking about?
well, we were talking about the playoff seeding, which you did an excellent job
Yes.
at. Don't short yourself on that one. You nailed it. Let's get into we can talk a little bit about yesterday's game against the Bucks. Just
Yeah.
let's focus on some takeaways from that. I think
Tice is my
Tice
takeaway. I
Tice
know
is
Smart was
excellent.
great, but if Tice is gonna play like that, I'm a lot less worried about when Rob comes back. I'll put it that
Tice is
way.
a good player, man. Like, there's a reason
He's
why we're
really
all
good.
hyped when he got traded back. I mean, go watch the
Yeah.
stream. Tim, Jack, and I, we all had like a celebration on the stream that Tice was back on the team. He is excellent. He's playing the same role he was playing when he was here in his first stint, and he's been excellent in that role. He was excellent the first time he was here, and he's giving you everything he can. And he just fits well. He plays well with Marcus Smart. He's great under the basket. He does similar things to Rob, which is why
You
he's fit in.
say he's great under the basket after the playoffs.
Well, no, he understood the
I
assignment
know,
is
I know.
different. Like, listen, like, they kind of needed to lose that game in hindsight as of now. If you're listening tomorrow and Milwaukee lost tonight and Brooklyn won, maybe it's not as meaningful. But man, they said, "Hey, Daniel, you're like the player on the floor right now they expect the least out of. Philly just lost to Toronto. We need you to smoke this one for us." And he said, "All right." And then he missed the layup. And now the Celtics are primed to get that Chicago Bulls matchup in round one.
That was a great play, by the way.
Oh, it was excellent. Yeah, he was wide open.
Anyways,
My dad
what I
said
was
he got
gonna say is,
pushed, in all fairness to
I was
Tice.
just gonna say, Tice has been great, and he's still getting the same horrendous whistle
Mhm.
he's gotten for the entirety of his career. And I know it's Giannis, and I know all these calls, blah blah blah. He terrible, just a terrible, terrible whistle. And it's especially bad when Tice gets attacked because he usually tries to just like, oh, shake it off, move on, whatever. He like complains a
Yes.
little bit. If Tice is getting attacked, that's when you know it's really, really, really bad because it's usually bad on a normal night. And so if Tice is complaining that much to get attacked, that's when you know it's really super, like really horrendous. So there was 3 plays in a row in that Bucks game. I was on the train, so it was spotty connection, but it was like they missed an elbow to the face on Marcus from Middleton. They missed an eight
Yeah.
second violation, and then they called a charge against
That they
Marcus
had
when
the
George Hill is
challenge.
clearly, yeah, just terrible. And you never know if they had that challenge late in the game. Maybe they challenged the Tice player. They challenged the lack of kickball, although that was unintentional. I don't think that was actually a kickball. They could challenge something later. It's just like, and again, it was a good game. Like, yes, they could have won, but it was a good experience regardless. Like, it's whatever it is, what it is with the seeding at this point. But like, just the little things frustrate you in those games.
Yeah, I also think Hauser was excellent yesterday too.
Hauser was
Ironically
great.
enough, like he 4 or 5. He made a cut. You can give him a dunk, I guess, if you want on that. You can call it a dunk if you'd like. But he made 3 threes. He moves well off the ball. He's someone on the radio today, Brad Stevens. He was on Toucher and Rich, and he, shouted out Hauser. He said Hauser. Actually, I don't know. Fred might have been giving him a hard time about Hauser because he's a Michigan State fan, the host. So I think the other Hauser brother goes to Michigan State, so that's why.
He does.
But
He does.
yeah, so I mean, Brad said like he's really liked what he's seen from Sam Hauser in the G League. Like he makes a lot of tough threes. He's looking like someone that's going to be a piece on this Celtics team going forward. It's not like a joke. Like
Crazy.
if he kind of straps down a bit, gets a little bit better at defense, becomes a bit more serviceable on that end of the floor, he's really going to be able to be a good player for the Celtics. He moves well off the ball. Every time he shoots the ball, I think it's going in, which is an elite club. Maybe not right now. There's a bunch of guys in the club, but not always. Not always a very inclusive club to be in.
Excuse me. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm hyped. If Sam Hauser can turn into a player, I mean, he's obviously not as adept defensively as Grant Williams, but if you have another shooter to throw into that stretch four role, okay, and even that was a bit of an understatement. He's nowhere near the defender of Grant Williams, and that's me as a Grant Williams
Grant
fan.
Williams
And
did a
you
good job on Giannis yesterday too.
He did. Do you see
Have to give him
Greeny's
the
tweet?
shout out. No,
Greeny's tweet. Oh gosh, I gotta go find it now so I don't
I
mess up the
did. I did
stats.
not spend a lot of time on Twitter this morning or yesterday.
That's fine. Greeny tweeted. Oh gosh, let me see. Sorry. Grant Williams guarded Giannis on 46 possessions and allowed 0 points on 0 of 4 shooting.
Yeah,
So
there you go.
there you go. And obviously, it's always not a perfect stat because the Celtics switch so much, but Grant Williams holding his own against Giannis is a very, very, very good thing. And the Celtics were helping really well on Giannis too. I know he finished with 29, but Smart got a block on him. Jaylen Brown got a block on him. They were playing good help defense when it matters. And that's the type of defense that translates well into the playoffs because teams will try to force things to their stars. And if you have good help defense and good aware defenders around the perimeter, you'll be able to shut down some of those interior bigs who the Celtics will run into in the form of obviously Giannis, Embiid, Bam Adebayo, and then Vucevic, if you want to talk about Chicago.
Vucevic bad. Vucevic bad. He's on the train. He's bad.
I will say though, in terms of Chicago, and I'll preface this by saying I'm not scared of Chicago. I think the Celtics would take care of them in 4 or 5. DeRozan's probably one of the guys who could give them some sort of trouble just because he plays so well in that mid-range area that the Celtics tend to give up on drives and help. You know what I'm saying? Like they kind of let that be there and he can kind of thrive. But outside of DeRozan, Levine is going to give you some buckets, but they don't play any defense either.
I don't know.
I don't think
I
they're
don't know
gonna
how
stay.
many buckets Levine gives you. I'm not convinced he's
All
good.
right, all right, all right. Oh man, I'm
But
so excited for this
DeRozan
year's
excellent
playoffs.
this season, so he deserves the credit.
He's been great. I'm so excited for the playoffs this year, man. I think it's gonna be super fun.
Me too.
Very, very
I
fun
think the
all
Celtics have
around.
a good chance to win, so I'm very excited.
Wow, big words. You think? Do you favor them in the East, or do you think the Bucks should be the favorites?
I mean, you still don't even know who they're playing yet, so it's hard to say. But
Very true.
I kind of do. I think Milwaukee's a good team, and I'm not discounting that.
I think it depends on Rob.
I think they
How
have a
Rob
massive.
looks.
I agree. But I also think they have a massive advantage over the other teams trying to compete with the Bucks, just of how well they've played and how well they tend to match up against Milwaukee.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
And I also think all the Rob news is good, so that's a bonus to any hopes you. I mean, I haven't. Let me look. I'll pull up the app right now. But the last time I looked, they were third in the championship odds, behind just Milwaukee and Phoenix. Let's see.
Is this 538 you're looking at?
This is betting odds. They are still.
Oh, okay.
So it is Phoenix plus 280. It is Milwaukee plus 550. Celtics plus 650. And then Brooklyn plus 650.
I don't get that.
The book likes Brooklyn, man. It's because they have KD on their team. He's the best player in the league. So you kind of have to account for that. I mean, Jack, all of Twitter is talking about how teams shouldn't want to play Brooklyn. Now I understand Twitter is not the Oxford of
I know.
basketball minds, but still, it is a
Hey, if you're saying Twitter's not the Oxford, then goddamn Instagram is community college, my friend. Oh boy.
Instagram's all the fellas banging bogues that getting the GED. Don't even think about them. But yeah, like there is Brooklyn is still a scary team. Like KD is a very good player that can probably win you a series. And I mean, as much as he's a prick, Kyrie is a good second punch to KD if he
Mhm.
shows up to play.
Excuse me.
But the defense isn't
Um,
there.
yeah. I was gonna say, do you want to do NBA awards now, or do you want to save that till next show
No, we
when the
need to talk
season's
about it.
officially over?
We need to talk about the Marcus thing at the very least.
Oh yeah,
Marcus.
we can save our personal. We can do we did our yearly award show. We did our NBA award show. I think after the season, we can do that during the play-in game since there'll be a lack of Celtics content during
Okay, yeah, we can do
that
that.
week. So
Get a
we can
little
roll through it
show
then.
off before Jack goes on vacation.
Well, I mean, I go, yeah, we should have time actually to record the night before, 2 days before. Um, Yeah, Marcus Smart, Defensive Player of the Year campaign, obviously been going on. Gary Payton today, saying that today being April 8th, said on, Sirius XM's NBA radio show that Marcus Smart should win the award. He said, big reason, sorry if I messed the quote up, big reason that guards haven't won is because they're not doing what I did in my time. The whole thing was you go up, pick them up 94 feet, you stop the guard, you keep it so the offense only has 10 seconds to work. Other teams were game planning for me. I had, teams saying, okay, just try to get the ball away from Gary so they can't stop him. And he said Marcus does a lot of those same things. He's got the dog in him. He's changing the game defensively. He makes you work. And he also threw his son in there too, Gary Payton II, not for Defensive Player of the Year, but just for another shout out. Of course, you got to get him in. He's a good defender too. But he talked about how Marcus has changed the game on defense, how he plays very similarly to Payton on the defensive end, and
Yeah.
getting the vote of confidence from a Hall of Famer and the last guard to win that award could do wonders for his chances, honestly.
Yeah, and at this point, it really feels like he's gonna win, which I think
Mhm.
he wholeheartedly deserves. And I don't think it works this way anymore, but it would be really nice if he got to like be handed the award at home. I think they
Yeah.
do that awards thing, so it won't happen. But
Well, the last
I
2
would really
years
appreciate it if they did. I think that
the
would be
last
a good moment.
yeah, the last 2 years they haven't because of COVID, obviously. They've done like, remember they had the Bucks hand Giannis his award. They surprised Julius with his award, and they'd like air them on TNT in segments. They had Ingles give Clarkson a 6 Man of the Year award because they were both candidates. So they could potentially do something similar with Marcus, like have the Celtics surprise him with the award at a practice or something. And obviously, it wouldn't be the same with the fans, but I honestly might prefer that over the show. I love the show. The show is
I don't.
entertaining, but
I think there should be. It shouldn't be an awards show. I think it's something you should have and celebrate with the
do it
people
before the
on the
first playoff
team.
game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. Like, I can't imagine this is like such a homer like thing that I'm thinking about, but like
Yeah.
I can't imagine like what the atmosphere will be. The way people love that guy for him to win, be given that award at a home game, like in front of a
Yeah.
playoff crowd, like that's something you clip and you go back and watch every once in a while.
Like when they gave D Rose his MVP before the Bulls playoffs game. That's the one I always remember. Like what they used to do. It'd be fire. I mean,
That's how they
I
should
think they
do
can
it.
bring it back.
But
I agree.
also, to pile on to Gary Payton saying he thinks he deserves it. Marcus was excellent in a national TV game against another player
Yes,
that
he was
is up for the
on both
award,
ends.
Giannis,
On
and
both ends.
both ends. And he, was shutting down. He had a block on Giannis. He had some
He did.
strips. Like people were going crazy. Like Andre Drummond tweeted saying Marcus should be Defensive Player of the Year. Like that was an excellent display for him if he's trying to win the award. Like could not have gone better for the man.
And I know it's not as high stakes, but they're back on national TV on Sunday on TNT. Another chance for voters to get to see Marcus live in action.
I'm not. Well,
Uh,
I hope he's not
big,
even
big.
playing. But I
You
I
don't
think
wait. You think the Celtics should rest against Memphis?
it depends. It depends. The reason I say I hope that he's not even playing is because if Philly loses a game before then they really can just screw off, and it doesn't matter if they win.
Well, I think. Does Philly play tonight?
Philly plays Saturday and Sunday.
Okay, yeah,
I
because the Celtics have
think.
2 days off.
I believe that is true.
Celtics play Saturday and Sunday. You're right.
No, the Sixers. Celtics only have a away
Sixers.
game.
I said Philly. I thought. My bad. I think the Celtics should play their guys in the first half, gauge it, and then bench in the second because I don't think Memphis is going to play anybody. And I know they've
I
been.
don't either. Of course, you have Scal opening his big mouth saying he thinks they're going to have everyone in for a tune-up before the playoffs. Do you remember him saying that on the broadcast?
No, I was
No,
watching
he
on
was saying
TNT.
it. Not
Oh, what a
yesterday.
guy.
Wednesday.
Oh, I don't remember it. No, I was in Boston on Wednesday. I was watching the game on like TVs in the bars. But interesting. But yeah, no. Marcus Smart for Defensive Player of the Year. I think he has a real good shot at. I think from a non-homer perspective, I think Mikal Bridges really, really deserves a shot as well as Jaren Jackson Jr. I think those are the only other two guys who could have some serious noise. And obviously you got the Rudies and the Bams and the Giannis's who could always win. But if I had to pick my top three, it'd probably go to Marcus, Jaren, and Mikal. With maybe Bam slipping in there into the top three as well. I think him and Jaren have a good spot, but I really think because Mikal Bridges has played every game this season, which is crazy, especially this year. So I think that's something that could end up giving him a little bit of a boost. And you don't know if he's going to play these last two. I assume he would, just to say he could play every game because that's pretty cool. But he's been underratedly incredible this season on the defensive end. So I think he deserves definitely some love. And obviously as a Celtics fan, I want to see Marcus win, but shout out Mikal Bridges for being amazing as well. But yeah, great to see Gary Payton give Marcus the credit. And I think that's all I had for today. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up before we head on out of here?
Should be a very interesting couple of days for me to open the ESPN app and see who's winning which game.
You don't have the NBA app? You go ESPN, not NBA?
I go ESPN. It's just because
Okay.
that's just what I do. I don't do the NBA one. The ESPN was not good, though. It lags. It's probably my
I like the
iPad,
NBA
though.
one.
My iPad, by the way, is like almost 10 years old. 7 years old. This is a dinosaur. It's a trooper. Except, you take it off the charger, and it does not last very long.
I was going to say, I can't imagine.
I have to bring it around the house, bring the charger, sit on the couch, plug that bad boy in, and use it.
Love to see it. But yeah, that's all I got for today. Very excited to see how Milwaukee and Philly, play these last couple of games. I think the only thing the Celtics want to avoid, I don't care if they're 2 or 3, just please God, don't want 4. And we're not going to talk about it. Just don't want to deal with Toronto.
I don't want to deal with it.
But yeah, anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in From the Rafters. We greatly appreciate it as always. I'm going, like Sam mentioned, I'm going away from like the 16th to the 25th. So there might be a gap in content.
Rob house was gone.
There might be a gap in content there. We'll see if I can get at any recording time while I'm away, but I would guess no, but we can figure that out then. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. And I'll throw it over to Sam.
Yeah, thank you guys very much for listening or watching today. If you're on YouTube, you're probably on Guy Boston or Bannertown. Either one, subscribe. If you're on Guy Boston, you can catch us before every game, a half hour. An assortment of Jack, me, Tim, and KJ will be there. Usually 3 of us, at least 2. Chatting it up with the chat, who we mentioned today, who had excellent takes yesterday in the pregame. And then if you're on any streaming services, you can follow us there. Make sure you don't miss any of the new releases. We did 2 this week, so we always have a lot of fun making them. Make sure you listen. And you can follow us on Twitter. You can follow Jack at Jackson1NBA. He'll typically tweet out the pod if he remembers. And you can follow me at Sam LaFrancis. That's our show for today.
Taco, come on. Taco's having some fun here. That is bogus. These guys are ridiculous.